Good evening to you, dear friends, Facebook friends in particular. Hope you're all doing well. Start here in about a minute or so. You know me, I don't delay for any unnecessary length of time. We get right on into what we all about on this evening. But I will give a moment or two here for people to come on in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Turn that off. Post a couple of things here, so excuse me while I kind of go across the screen. Since I did reference it, there's the actual direct quote from Mr. King. And here is the actual definition we'll be working with this evening. Of course, there's others, which is why you see the number one, or we'll see it there. All right. And I don't say this as often as I should, but feel free to jump in on these things. It's meant to be a chat, a conversation. I do respond as I'm able to those who comment when it does pop up and I can see it. I don't know why a few weeks ago it didn't let me see the comments, but I have my laptop up now so I can actually see when a comment populates. That being said, let's get into it. 9:01 Central Standard Time. So let's get rocking. Now, the question, one of the things that I posed, and I actually have my write-up here. I'm kind of efficient with these things. One of the things I said toward the end, and I did it on purpose in the write-up, is after all those questions, we'll address some of them, American Dream, all that kind of stuff. Then I came down and said, and before we can approach those questions, we have to at least ask the question, is there an objective standard by which we can measure what character is and what it is supposed to do, right? So at the very least, let's start with a definition. And I suspect that's a definition, of course, I got from a dictionary, but some may not even completely agree with that. I think it's general enough that where we can all agree. The definition, if you can't see it, hopefully you can, it says character. And number one just means this was the first of several definitions. The one that most relates to what we're talking about, the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Distinctive to an individual. So when we talk about character, at least how we're going to talk about it tonight, that's what we're talking about. The mental and moral qualities. And if you missed our broadcast on moral relativism, it's right here on Facebook. Also, it's up on our YouTube channel. And I got to remember to post the YouTube channel from time to time. So people who want to go and check out these videos that we do, if you don't want to sit here on Facebook, I perfectly understand, and watch an hour-long broadcast, once it's been posted, you can go check us out on the YouTube channel, the Victory in Christ broadcasting channel, and I'll post that link up a little bit later. But and now this one won't be up. We usually stay 1 week behind just so we can keep the content fresh. But notice Martin Luther King's quote. Most of us are probably familiar with it. I have a dream. This is around minute 3 seconds, about 15 seconds in. I have a dream that my 4 little children, who are all older than me, 4 little children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, by the content. Now, that's a very important word there. That's why I didn't just say character. I put content of character. Because when you look at the definition, and I suspect he had this in mind, the mental and moral qualities. So when you say content, what are you talking about? You're talking about the content. You're talking about what people think and why they think it, or we call that mentality. Mentality is not just what we think, it's by definition why we think it. And that's cultural. It brings in a lot of different things we won't necessarily get into tonight. And then, of course, morals. Whenever you start talking about character, you're talking about morality. They go hand in hand, being honorable, not telling lies, and so on and so forth. So that's an honorable person, integrity, and all of that. Now we got to put that out there, or this whole thing is a wash, right? The other parts may be a bit more inviting in terms of conversation, but they won't have any meaning if we don't at least do our work here, do some hard labor, if you will, some heavy lifting, as they say here. So the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Now, of course, we can talk about the character or characteristics of a group as well. So that would mean distinctive to a group, right? So, but tonight we're going to deal with individuals as they relate to the world around them, the American dream, whatever particular country you may be in. I do have people who are from other nations on my Facebook page, but it is what it is. So, as we already looked at the Martin Luther King quote, which I gave you there, here's some of the things that we put down. Calls for those to not be judged by their external characteristics such as skin color, and he made that direct comment about his children, or using his children as the object of his comment, if you will, or subject, excuse me. Notably, the results of ones that one can control, which would be the inner person. So the idea here is that I can control my thoughts and my mentality, the structure in which my thoughts, my ideas, my philosophies, right? So my mentality kind of is the construct or the structure in which I place my thoughts, or out of which my thoughts come, however you want to look at that. And then ultimately my moral disposition, which starts on the inside. Now, immediately you go, and I always do this, right? Again, why do you bring up these kind of subjects? Because the whole point of Thursday broadcast, and I occasionally do get people who actually literally walk up to me and say, hey man, I catch your broadcast, and others who I've just met who come on my Facebook page are appreciative of these subjects. And I told you, man, several months ago, as long as people want to hear these kinds of discussions, we'll have them. If nobody wants to hear it, not even one person, I won't do it. And I don't necessarily mean you have to watch me live, but even watching them back, which apparently several people actually do. So as long as people keep saying, this is good content, I'll keep doing it. All right. That being said, this raises many questions, is what we said. Does it still matter who we are from the inside out? And that's the perfect question in light of what we said. Does it matter who we are from the inside out? And most of us will say, and look, I'm gonna put my foot in it tonight because I like to do that anyway, just in my general personality, but I think it's pertinent for somebody in this world to do it. And that includes racists, white supremacists, people who are prejudiced, which means it could be brown and black people as well. That includes people who firmly believe that certain people don't even have the right to XYZ, right? But does it matter who we are from the inside out in terms of the content of our character, our mentality, what we think, why we think it, and our moral disposition? Most people would go, absolutely. Without doubt. Some would even get indignant. I can't believe you're even asking that. That just makes no sense. Of course it matters what manner of person we are on the inside. Of course. Now I'm going to turn some corners here that you might not see coming. You know what I do, so stay with me. So the first question, which is a setup question, because we're all going to say yeah. We're all going to say yeah. Unless somebody's willing to be a antagonist or protagonist and say, well, I don't think so, And then that person will probably get, billy clubbed upside their heads, right? But most of us are willing to step out on a pretty firm limb and go, yeah, it matters who we are on the inside. And yet, can we explain some of the things that we have seen in society, And because of social media platforms that are accessible on our phone, we can sadly click right over on Facebook to, it's a little box thing that looks like a screen, and you see videos. You can go to TikTok, you can go to YouTube, and there's a whole nother platform apparently going to come out that's pretty much like TikTok. Everybody's jumping in on the bandwagon, of course, and see more and more videos of very unfortunate behavior, very unfortunate actions that are capturing not just the actions, but the implication of the person's lack of morality. And what are you thinking, right? Like, what was that person thinking? What was that person thinking? So, yeah, Gabe, yeah. I mean, who we are on the inside. Yeah. Until we start flushing out actions, until we start questioning what we're seeing. Now, I know I just said questioning, and people are going to go way back to moral relativism. Wait a minute, Gabe. I don't judge. But if you're watching videos, if you're looking at the news or whatever it is, if you're having conversations, let's not just reduce it to social media. If you're having conversations, I know now the states are opening back up, so you're going back to get your nails done, you're getting your hair cut, you're coming together as family. If you're talking about the current events in this life, you are assessing people's words, actions, deeds, and therefore giving some attention, stay with me, to the content of their character, even if that's not what you were intending to do. Even if it's not what you were intending to do, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So let's go to an obvious situation now. The voter rights in Georgia. Pretty simple, pretty easy one to go to. It's just right there for us. Now, I've watched people on both sides of this discussion, those who are for the laws, and they are of a certain disposition. I won't get into that. But those who are for the laws swear up and down, no, this is not Jim Crow. No, this is not whatever. No, this is just about making sure our elections are fair. Now, what's so fascinating is every time any one of these, and it's about 4 or 5, 8 individuals, 4 or 5, maybe 6 individuals, I've seen, not just politicians, I've seen stand for the actions in Georgia behind voting. Not going to get into the particulars, but what's so fascinating is when they get pressed about things like giving people water, it's amazing to me how they freeze up. You think they would be fully prepared when they get before a camera and a microphone and an interviewer, that they would go ahead and get that one out the way, that they would get their thoughts, mentality, and whatever moral disposition they're taking together. So when they have to answer the obvious question about somebody getting some blasted water, who stood in, and I think one lady said we stood in line, one family of people said we stood in line for 11 hours. 11 hours. This 2020 election, 11 hours. 11. That's overtime, ladies and gentlemen. That's an 8-hour day plus 3 hours overtime. They stood in line for 11 hours to cast their vote in Georgia, ironically. And literally in one fell swoop of a pen, they were just told the polling places are going to close early. They're going to close. They're not going to stay open to after 5 when people who work 8 to 5 or 8 to 5 or, I don't always say 8 to 5, 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. When y'all get off work, we'll be closed. What's the mentality behind that? And when those questions, I'm not going to get into the other questions, when those questions are posed to those who are for those laws, It's amazing to me, basically, how they get really evasive. Because the question of what's the ultimate response to those whose votes won't be able to be received when they're asked directly, it's amazing they don't get on a high horse and say, you know what, every vote counts in this country, and we want to make sure everyone is able to, what they say is, we want to make sure whoever's voting is casting a proper vote so that it is legal and fair. They don't express any concern. They don't express any concern from their mentality and from their moral position, because voting is classified as a moral act. It is in one sense looked at as a moral act in this country. Like, if you are a citizen of this country, you should vote as a part of your citizenry. So it actually falls in some sense in the category of morality as an American. Now, I don't know what country you're in, but that's how serious voting is to many people, which is why nearly 160 million Americans, citizens, let me say it that way, voted. It's a lot. 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 What, 156 million, something like that? They counted the votes in Georgia 3 times, right? That's how serious this is. So this is pretty serious stuff. But I'm just using the voting as an aside to what was the moral disposition and the mentality of those who not only wrote into law things like you can't give people potentially standing in line for 11 hours water. That actually is a crime. I want you to understand that. It made a caring act like giving potentially dehydrated individuals water a crime. I told you you're not going to see where I'm going. So I posed the question, one of the questions is, can the American dream, can you see why I picked on voting? Can the American dream, can the American idealism be achieved while one's character is lacking? Now that's one example, but it's a big example because it's telling about a group of individuals that live in this country. Now, maybe you don't like that particular subject because of its effect on somebody who looks like me. I don't care. I don't. Because it's an obvious question that speaks to, because of the American dream includes voting. The American idealism includes political freedoms. The freedom of speech, for example. Right? So in America, and people who migrate into this country come to this country not just seeking health, wealth, and prosperity. They come here seeking political asylum. They come here seeking the freedom to worship whatever idea they want to worship. And even though I may be of a specific worship system, I understand, having been born here, I'm an American-born citizen. There's no question, despite my skin tone. The reality of it is, when migrants come here and go through the exhaustive means to become citizens here, I don't care what country they come from. The reality of it is, they go through more to be a citizen here than I did. I didn't do anything but be born. And they come here not just to achieve health, wealth, and prosperity, since most migrants will never know wealth. Never. Ever. It is statistically true that most migrants will work the jobs that most Americans, like myself, will not work. It is statistically true. In other words, that you can't argue it, even if you may try to twist it. You can't argue the fact that most migrants will work jobs that most of us won't work They'll work them with a high level of loyalty. They won't bounce from job to job because they probably don't even think that they can. That being said, the American idealism speaks to the reason why they come here. My question is, can you really achieve as individuals the American idealism? Can you really reach, here's a word from government class in 12th grade, the pragmatic view of life? Can you really live the American dream and not be one of character, not be one who has a mentality and a moral disposition that is of high character? Can you really be a person? Can I be a person who has low grade character, that whatever I think about other people, I don't care, or I believe myself to be better than you, right? And most of us, we have to kind of work through this together. Most of us would think that that's not the best way. That's not the best mentality. That's not the best idea. And yet in this country, as true around the world, it is an idea that continues and has been a part of this country since before its founding. That there are those, and I'm not going to use any terms, but there are those, even within the same race, who think themselves better on the basis not of their character, but on the basis of their cha-ching. And the American dream in most people's minds is cha-ching. Yeah. Most people believe that the American idealism is the big house, 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 children, a dog, a white picket fence, etc., etc. White collar job, in living in a wonderful neighborhood, and country club memberships, and blah, blah, blah. I've heard this stuff since I was a child. Oh, definitely got to own your own home. Definitely got to own your own home. You need to have at least a 700 credit score, maybe a 720 credit score. You got to eat the best foods, work out at the best gyms, have the best of friends. Even if you are religious, go to the best of churches. That's the American idealism. And that's undergirded by all the freedoms, the freedom of speech, the freedom to bear arms, the freedom to, the right to, the right to representation, and on and on and on. Right? Can that truly be achieved? Now, in a way, my question is answered by the fact that there are those who've achieved it. Right? We have in this country one of the most strangest things I've ever seen in all my life. And that is 1% of the population controls, 90+% of the money in this country, of the wealth in this country. 1% controls 90+% of the wealth in this country. 1%. And that's been my entire life. One. So for that 1%, most would suggest that they are definitely living the American dream. They have the American idealistic family and life. What about the other 99%, especially since we're told that the middle class is all but gone? I know people right now, obviously I'm not going to say any names, and if this hits you, just and stay with me. There are people I know right now of varied ages. I'm not just talking about somebody coming out of high school. I mean all the way on up. I know some 70+-year-olds, maybe a little older than that, maybe 80, who are still working. I mean still working. I don't mean part-time and just when they choose to go in. They're still working their jobs. And they're not still working their jobs because they are greedy. They're still working their jobs because they flat out have to. Some of the ones I know who are in that 60, 70, 80 range, they'll tell you, I got to work just to keep my health care. This is the nature of the thing, and yet we still hold out there as we look to superstars in sports and acting and politics. Let's be real. Politicians have become superstars, probably one of the worst things I could ever say, but we all know it's true. We all know it's true. When our politicians are superstars instead of almost nobodies, which is what they should be, relative to their districts, of course, the reality of it is, when they become superstars and they transcend their own states and they transcend their own offices, it becomes a problem. But they have, most would agree, achieved the American dream. But the question I'm asking, and I'm going to keep asking until I'm done, is have they done that with content of character? Can we say, I'm going to ask you directly, in your mind right now, get 2 or 3 of the people that you idolize, and I don't say that as disrespect, but that you are a fan of in whatever genre of business you want to choose, sports, acting, and then ask yourself, because of course, due to social media, we can get some insight on these people's lives. Hey, gone are the days when there was a such thing as a private life for these people. No, we get to see and hear everything thanks to Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat. So whether you're Kurt Franklin and we seeing your 30-something-year-old son acting like he's 12, no disrespect, but it is what it is. He's worse than my 11-year-old. I mean, I'm just being honest. It's just my opinion. You can get mad. It's okay. I love you still. The reality of it is, or Brian McKnight's sons, or whatever, and whoever you want to blame in those situations. Now, I'm appreciative and a fan, if you will, of both those artists in terms of their music. But the reality of it is, I didn't ask for it, but their lives, personal lives, got blasted across my Instagram screens. And now I'm having to deal with this. And now I'm having to question the content of their character, whether I wanted to or not. And I don't want you to lie to yourself. You can lie to me all day, but you have to deal with the content of people's character. You don't like that? How about police officers? Oh, you don't want me to go there, do you? You gonna get nervous? I'm not just talking about the oath they took. The oath they took is on the basis of the content of their character. They're not gonna maintain that oath if they don't have character. Do you understand how serious this subject is? You can tell me about Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, and you can give me all the speeches you want, and you ain't gonna change what I'm saying. Deal with it. Deal with it. The content of our character speaks to who we are on the inside of us. Who are we inside this chest? That's what my football coach used to say. Who are we on the inside? I don't give a rip what your skin color is. Who are you beyond your skin tone? Who are these men and women beyond their skin tone, beyond their bank accounts, beyond their social, economic, social, political status? That's the question at hand. And if these individuals, including ourselves, if we're honest, are not really of high moral character, of high mental character, if we know that we think thoughts, or we know people who think thoughts that would otherwise get them put in prison, which we are now finding out about a particular politician, potentially, we know he's innocent till proven guilty, but his one of his ace boon coons, as they used to say, one of his closest friends, has been indicted on 33 counts. So the reality of it is, and some of us may have people who are our ride or dies that we don't really know about. We don't know what they do behind closed doors. It is what it is. And then we find out what's going on with them. What are we going to do? Are we going to be loyal to people who have a low moral character? I could turn to religion if you want me to. I'm just giving these things as a way to frame this conversation. We had an extraordinarily known, let me be fair, we had an extraordinarily known preacher by the name of I'll give his name, Ravi Zacharias, someone I look to understand things from Scripture. I don't know the man, never met the man. I did not follow his every word and buy all of his books. I don't buy nobody's books, but I listened to his discussions on biblical topics and found him helpful, only to find out that for an extraordinarily long period of time, that married man who traveled the world and stood before princes and kings and dictators and who you name it and taught scripture also had a moral failing. And not just a moral failing. No, he had an ongoing mentality. Literally, I read the deposition I can send it to you if you want to see it. I read the deposition that was put out by his ministry, and their findings was that man literally told more than one person that let's pray together after he basically forced them into sexual situations. So Gabe, why are you doing this subject? That's why. Don't give me this, Gabe, but nobody's perfect. Yeah, I know that. Obviously I know that because I'm part of that group that's not perfect. But think about what I just said. Think about what this man did for a lifetime, 40, 50 years, whatever it was. And in the final analysis, he didn't just have moral failings like, he had an affair. That's bad enough. No, the dude literally coerced people. Coerced them. And in one instance, he told the woman after the coercion, now let's thank God for what we've just received. And she didn't receive a lesson from the scripture. She received him. Best way to say that with my son 20 feet away. So the reality of it is, I'm not pulling no punches on anybody tonight. And I'm not getting into, I gave him specifically because it was public. That's public. The man is dead. That's public. It's like nothing anybody can do. He can't be found guilty. He died. So the reality of it is, and again, notice what I said. How about the people you call your aces? How about your own children? How about your grandchildren? How about you? How about your spouse? How about your coworkers? How about the place you love to shop and that's your girl, that's your boy, that's your dude, and you love to go to them for a haircut, and you come to find out that they got some low character things going on with them. We all got something, right? So you find out they got some low character things going on. You find out that in their not just their actions may be immoral, but then you're listening to them, and I'm going to say the words. I'm going to say them. And you start hearing some racist tendencies. Ladies, you sitting there on a date, you single ladies, you sitting there on a date, and that man makes a comment, and you start realizing he might be a misogynist. He has a mentality that women are to be barefoot and pregnant or whatever the case may be. I don't know how bad he may be, but you're sitting there listening, and he's a nice guy, and you're liking him, and you're digging him, and then all of a sudden, he kind of, when you say, well, this is what I did for a career, and, I might consider going back to work or going to work or whatever, and he goes, oh, really? And you go, well, why you say it like that? Well, I was just raised in a different era. I'm going to tell you right now what he's getting ready to say. He finna say something misogynistic. So that's character ain't just our morality. Character is our mentality. I like that. Write that down. So again, we're dealing with character not just in terms of our moral choices, the right and wrong of our actions. We're dealing with character in terms of the right and wrong of our thinking. Now, again, I'm throwing a lot of stuff out at you here, but you got to sift through and discover what you consider to be yes, no, right? Because here's the trick with the American dream piece, and this is why I threw it in light of Martin Luther King. Because what he was saying is, ultimately, I want my kids to have every opportunity at the American dream, which is what he said throughout his few years, as anyone else. And a few of his children have achieved. Not that they didn't run into racist situations, but they have achieved. They have achieved. I mean, at least what I would call achieve. But they might say, Gabe, I've achieved, but. And why would they say that? Because the reality of it is, living in this country, for any number of races, not just brown and black people, is dicey. It is. No matter what we feel about that, you may not like that, I get that. But it's a dicey proposition. It really is. It really is. I'm raising my son in this environment. I'm bringing him up with this in mind, as my parents brought me up with this in mind. And so my job as a parent is to try not just to get him to be physically healthy and feed him vegetables and fruits and make sure he gets to bed and gets plenty of rest and take his vitamins. And yeah, we do all that. Got that. But also to teach him to how to think, to frame his thinking, and to have some impact on his morals. Not that he'll be perfect. I got to keep saying that because people get all touchy. Well, Gabe, don't be too tough on him. Y'all kill me with that mess. That's mess to me. My parents raised me with a bit of toughness, which is why I can stand on my own 2 feet. Let the church say amen. And if you don't know what that comes from, don't worry about it. Church folks know what I'm talking about. So that's my point tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It is, why is it that we're having such a hard time? Now let me turn another corner. You know me, I'm going to turn about 4 or 5 corners before I'm done. Let's get back to the individual. Let's get back to the single lady. Oh, let me get in trouble. Who has a master's degree. She's got a master's degree. And I just had this conversation recently. She's got a master's degree. She's been on her job. Let's say she's in her mid 40s, right? Mid to late 40s. So let's put her at 47. Let's say she got her master's degree at roughly about 26. So let's say she got hired within a year. So she's been on her job 20 years. Almost 21 years, right? So she's got a master's degree. She's working in the field. So she's got the education. Let's see. She's got let's say whatever race you think she should be, okay, whatever, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. We know what her gender is, so she's doing well. She's educated. She's 47 now, so her kids are basically grown. Let's say she's single. Marriage didn't quite work out, but okay, that happened early. She had her 2 kids, a son first, a son first, a girl second, that perfect, right? They're within 2 years of each other, right? So they both graduated high school. They're in college or finishing up college themselves. She's got a great job based on her education. She's making high 5 figures, low 6 figures. Let's put her at about $80,000 a year. That's probably a principal here in this area. So let's say she's hitting around. No, that's actually a principal in the Dallas Independent School District. So let's say she lives in Texas. She lives in Dallas, Texas. She's a principal, because actually I think that was my principal. But my principal was married and had 3 kids. So she's got 2 kids, both grown, 47 years old. She's been in the education field since she was 26 years old. She's now rocking as a principal. She's making $80K. Yes, she's single, looks pretty nice, well put together, takes care of herself. As far as we're concerned, living her best life. Let me ask you this question. Does any of that automatically mean she is morally upright and she has a healthy mentality? Does any of the things that I just said mean that she obviously, since she's especially in the education field, she is morally upright? There's just little to no immorality in her life. Does any of that mean that? See, this is the point of the question. This is the point of the subject. The content of her character, we don't know what the content of her character is. You may want to try to suggest, well, Gabe, somebody living like that, they have to be. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you certain that she has to have high moral character. She has to have a great mentality, because I worked as a teacher. It's not a given. I'm telling you now, it's not a given. It's not a given. Because I actually know of a woman who lives in this area. Well, she may still be here. I don't know. I didn't know her. Well, actually, I did meet her. She was a friend of my son's mother. But come to find out, oh, no. Sorry, not her. No, she has some stuff going on too. But anyway, this other lady was a mother. She had a son with oh man, not Down syndrome. I can't remember right now. But he was a special needs child. He is a special needs child. Sorry. And so at the time, my wife at the time, Tara, was working with her son. And come to find out, principal of a fairly known school here. I won't call the names because somebody might go, oh, I remember her. Won't do that. But this young lady, roughly around my age, apparently cheated on some test scores. Single woman, I think 2 kids, making very good money, was a principal. Got caught cheating, changing the scores for some of her students. I'm telling you, there's no guarantee just because listen to me, just because somebody can be making some good money, just because somebody could be in good political standing, just because somebody has a membership to a well-known country club, just because somebody has parents who might even be well-known lawyers and doctors and judges and my dad is a police officer, so I can drive 300 miles an hour down this 50 mile an hour zone. See where I'm going? The very notion. I hope everybody was prepared for this, because this ain't strange. I'm not saying something that we really haven't given thought to, most of us, but we just don't talk about it. The fact is, you can have some ching-ching because you could be born into a family with some ching-ching. The fact is, you could have a family member die and leave you a substantial amount of money, or leave you a fantastic car, a Tesla, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Chrysler 300, and on and on and on. You can have somebody just hand you a fabulous life by getting married. Ever heard of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette? You can marry into a fantastic life and not have much content of character. And if, as Martin Luther King said, you were judged by the content of your character and not the color of your skin, I might be found lacking morally, and even in my mentality. The things that I say, denigrating others, the things that I say, marginalizing people, suggesting that somehow because of my ching-ching, because of my education, because of my... And I'm not saying that there are people who do not behave in a manner that is categorically better than others. I'm not saying that. But I'm pretty sure I can go find a homeless man or woman who, morally speaking, and even their mentality is far better than some of the... Again, I'm not calling nobody's name. Some of the individuals who are classified as wealthy and healthy and living in a fabulous, fabulous location. I'm from California. And when I say that to people at times, they go, oh, wow. Los Angeles? Do you realize that there are more people per capita in Los Angeles, with over 10 million residents in the greater Los Angeles area? Got 10 million people there. And no, not everybody's living in San Diego. an extremely expensive place with a beautiful beach or two. No. Most people can't keep their head above water living in New York in a loft that might cost you like $1 billion a month. Most people can't keep their heads above water. And they are poor. They are broken. It doesn't mean that they lack character. It doesn't mean, especially in this pandemic time, that if somebody is unemployed on the level that would help them to take care of their lives. Let me say that because some people, well, Gabe, there are people hiring. Look, if you lost a job making $100,000 a year, I don't give a rip what anybody says. You can't just go get a job making $12,000 a year. I'm glad you just think the old school thoughts that, hey, just get a job so you can be doing something. $12,000 a year is below the poverty line. In case you didn't know, do your research. So going to make $12,000 a year at a full-time job ain't gonna cut it. But they got a job though. I know that's the old school thinking, but that thinking is actually in this day and time stupid. Stupid. And we need to be mindful of the fact that there was once upon a time a middle class when people did make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. And then all of a sudden, around 1998 or so, those jobs kind of began to disappear. And by the time you got into the 2000s, middle class was gone. And you get to 2008 when Mr. Obama comes into office, now you're doing bailouts. Now you're trying to rescue people. You got to give them some money just to keep their heads above water. So the reality of it is that's the talk tonight. I'm not going to stress this out any longer than I need to. The question is, can you really achieve the American idealism, the American dream? And sadly, my answer is apparently yes. As far as many of us consider the American dream to be. And if you, like so many in this country, hold to the idea that because you're buying a house or you own your home, and because you have achieved on your job levels and you are now CEO or president or whatever, if you, like most people, under the impression because your children and you raised them by yourself and your children are out there achieving, if you, like most people, believe that your educational levels, if you, like most people, believe because you've gone to an exotic vacation, if you, like most people, are under the impression because you are a go-getter, and if you're from another place, a hustler, and if you're from another place, a boss, whatever word you use, it all means the same thing. If you are like most people who are under the impression that being ambitious is where it's at, then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, you can achieve the American dream. My job tonight that I task myself with is to come and ask the question, does the content of your character matter? That's the question. As you are ambitious, ma'am, sir, does it matter? Does it matter, gentlemen, when you raise up your company, Amazon, Microsoft? Does it matter when you become a billionaire? Does it matter when you're even the president of the United States and you have such a mentality of greed that as the president making $245,000 a year, you pay $750 in taxes? Does it matter? Does it matter that you have a lot and you're just only set on getting more? Does it matter, men, when we collect women? Does it matter, women, when all you do is yearn for the compliments and the desire and the attentions of men with no intentions of anything serious? All you do is set your attentions just to get attention. Men, same thing. With our bank rolls and our cars and our pictures in front of our homes. Fellas, you know what we do. You know what we do. When we're sitting there talking and texting or whatever we're doing, and we're bragging on our achievements, and we say something like this: if you ain't going to toot your own horn, who will? If you're not going to read your own mail, or whatever the phrase is, if you're not going to brag on you, basically, then who are you expecting to do it? Because that's where we are and where we've been for a while. That's where we stand, especially in this country. We stand in a place where humility is a foreign word to us. You might as well be speaking Mandarin. You might as well be speaking some language that has died off, because that's the name of the game, isn't it? And the content of our character is the least of our concerns. And I'm not saying this is for everybody. Obviously, I'm not a everybody all kind of person. I know it's nuanced. I know it's different for each person. That's why the definition is so important. Remember, the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. I ask you this directly. Do you value distinctives, these character distinctives? Do you value someone as you listen to them talk, as you're listening to me talk? You're judging me. I'm not scared. I invite it. I'm the one who logs on, turns on my camera. I invite the scrutiny. Bring it on. Do you value what you hear from my mentality? Not just the ideas that I present in the post, but when I get on this, in front of this camera, and you listen to my mentality, you listen to my way of thinking. You're not just hearing my ideas, you're hearing my very way of thinking. You've heard me make comments about women. You've heard me make comments about men. You've heard me make comments about politics. You've heard me make comments about education, communication, relationships, jobs, parenting, spouse, husbands and wives. I make comments about everything. I'm putting myself out there. So, do you value the distinctions of my character and my way of thinking? And for those who know me personally, what do you see of me in terms of, and I'm not, again, not perfect, but what do you see of me? Do you value the qualities of my moral and mental disposition? I'm asking about me. I'm not turning it on you anymore. I'm turning it on me. Do you value it? Because I'm not saying I'm going to change whether you do or not, but it speaks to this. Listen to me. It speaks to who we are as individuals. If what Martin Luther King said is true, and what most of us in the beginning, as I stated, believe to be true, that who we are on the inside is valuable. Wait. Let me get this in before I finish. Women, don't just judge me by my external beauty. I have more going on. I'm not just beauty, I'm brains. And I want to say, yes, you're not brains in terms of smarts or not smarts. Your brains in terms of the way you think. The way you think. I had a very interesting conversation, again, not saying any names, not long ago, with an individual. Very interesting ideas, and I was probing and asking, and okay, let me ask you this, and let me ask you this. I was probing. I wanted to get an understanding of their mentality. Beyond their presentation, I was curious to see what they were talking about. I genuinely wanted to know what they talking about. And let me ask this, and since we're on a social media platform called Facebook, can I turn to your Facebook pages and get some understanding, some grasp on where you are in terms of your mental and moral qualities? Can I get some kind of bird's eye view of what you are about on the inside, who you are as a person on the inside? Do you think everybody that showed up to the Black Lives Matter protest was really there strictly because they want black people and brown people to be respected? Do you really think that? Are you that naive to think that all those people, even around the world, as these protests went forth last year, really showed up strictly because they don't want to see somebody that looks like me swing from a tree, because they don't want to see somebody like me get shot unjustly? Do you think that's all the reason why? Well, you know that that's not, because some of those people showed up with masks on and they looted. They didn't show up to those protests with any intentions of fight for the rights of people like Gabe. No, I watched videos of people who were there to loot, and they so happen to not look like me. Just saying. They used a situation of people being shot and killed who so happened to look like me to go and loot and pillage and pilfer. So when I talk about these things, even if you show up to a protest, yeah, amazing, right? Even at a protest. Even at a protest, Gabe, are you saying, yeah. What were you watching? What was I watching? I watch people do this. Do you think everybody who shows up to the place we call, or y'all call, church, you think they're really there for the particular religious belief system? You think that everybody who shows up on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday or a Wednesday or a Tuesday or whatever day they show up, they're showing up for the sake of the god or goddesses or whatever the belief system calls for? Do you think they're literally there strictly to give veneration and honor to whoever they're supposed to? Do you know I have been in this thing my entire life, and I know, and you know, if you're honest, that people show up to a place we call, or some call, church, to fulfill a quota. They could care less about God. They're simply there because they're doing a barbecue, and they invited everyone on Easter just a few weeks ago, and they wanted to come and eat. They're coming for a funeral. They could care less about the belief system. They're coming in with the dark shades on, and they smell of alcohol and they smell of weed. They're not coming to pay any respects to the person who died. They're coming to appease themselves. Do you think, ladies, every gentleman who invites you out gives a actual good gosh darn about what you're about? Do you think they really want to hear about how your day was or care? Do you think in all the potential men that you have talked to, exchanged a number with, sat down across from, spent any kind of time with, that they were all about your good? And men, I ask you the same question. That speaks to who we are. Oh, I could do this all night. That speaks to who we are on the inside. But Gabe, he was 6'4". Every time he moved his arm, you could see the muscles ripple. His chest was just boom, it was big. And he'd do this, and I'd pass out and faint. Gabe, he picked me up in such a lovely, lovely piece of transportation. The last guy, his car was, a bicycle built for two. I'm like, dude, I can't go with you, dog. But this guy picked me up, and I don't want to say Gabe, but it was nice. It was nice. And he picked me up, and he took me to a restaurant I've always wanted to go. It was 5-star. And he wined and dined me. Oh, he was such a gentleman. 2 weeks passed, 3 weeks passed. Hey, what happened to so-and-so and so? Oh, Gabe, he wasn't nothing but a jerk. What? 3 weeks ago, he was the man. I know, and he was so handsome, too. What happened? Man, he got me by himself, and he was clawing on me. Oh, he was? That speaks to who he is on the inside. But he has achieved. He has reached the American dream. I've had too many conversations, ladies, with you all about this. That's how I know it to be true. That's why I can give these examples. They're really based on real life. That's why I can't give names. Men on the other side. What do you think the song, She Ain't Nothing But a Gold Digger, right? Where do you think that came from? That song was on the basis of there's a reality out there. There's women, not all, Now, I got to keep saying stuff because people will get upset and offended. No, not every woman is a gold digger. But there are some who are. Not every man is, touchy-feely. And that's a nice way to say that. But there are many who are. And look, I got to say it, fellas. I got to say it. There are many who are clammy, and real quick, too. They're real quick. That's just a fact. And that speaks to who they are. And you know it because when you try to say, hey, hold on, they don't even hear you. Like, what's wrong with you? Like what's wrong with you? Well, I thought I was a gentleman. Here they come. Look, that's the point of this talk, is to really get us to think about, Gabe, well, we already know this. Do we? Do we? Let me say one more thing. This would probably be the least liked thing. I've been single for years. Obviously, I talk about it from time to time. Been single going on 6 years. Come next month, the ending of 6 years. And in my time, I talk about many coversations I've had via messenger, via email, via text, via phone call, via face-to-face. I've had many conversations, hundreds, easy hundreds of conversations in 6 years. Conversations is what I like to do. Some of them very long conversations, some very short, but I've had many conversations with women. And it is amazing to me, obviously not all of them are the same, right? It is amazing to me to hear, and I'm the one who knows how to ask questions that gets past your external. It's just an ability I have. I've even given people questions to ask, men and women, to ask your children, ask your wife, ask your husband. It's just, I don't know when I was able to start doing that, but I can. I just did it recently, as early as this morning. As late as this morning, actually. So I like to ask questions. I like to ask questions that are not in one sense probing, but does get underneath. I tell people, man, you got to ask questions so you can get down underneath a thing. Because that's where things are hidden. That's where the truth often lies underneath. And you may find when you get down there, you like what you see. That's very possible. Or you may find when you get down there or in here, when you start asking questions that get in here. Let me give you an example really quick. It's one I use all the time. Men, don't get mad at me. Lady, you out on a date? So you ask the gentleman, and now you've heard me talk about this already. So kind of tell me about your, relationship history. I mean, you don't have to be super detailed if you don't want. I just want to kind of know because our relationship's informal who we are. Oh, okay. Yeah, boo. Anyway, the last relationship I was in was a couple of years ago. Oh, you've been single for a couple of years. Okay, no big deal. Yeah, and it's been a couple of years, and so you don't mind me asking why have you been single? Yeah, because I don't really like to talk about it. Well, I understand. No, I'll share with you. I'll share with you. Okay, cool. Yeah, see what happened was, see, she used to be tripping. Oh, she did? Yeah, she would be jealous. Well, I could kind of see, you're a handsome fella. I get it. No, and right? Like I would tell her, just because I go to the gym 6 days a week, oh, okay, you work out a lot. Yeah, I like to work out. And, that wasn't her thing because she would ask to go with me. And I'd be like, you don't even want to work out. I work out hard. You don't even want to go. Well, no, I want to go with you. Oh, so she wanted to go? Well, that's what she said, but she didn't really want to go. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Now, if you've never been to a gym, particularly around this time of year when it's starting to get a little warmer, outfits change a little bit. Some wear this stuff all year long, but some dress a little different. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. Well, not only the gym, that's not too much, you're right. Well, apparently he didn't really like her going anywhere. Because he would go out with his friends, but he seldom, if ever, went out with her. And he felt like she was just being jealous. Uh-oh. And when he would go out, she would text like, hey, sweetheart, when are you coming home? Or am I going to get a chance to see you? And he wouldn't respond. I'm sorry, hold on. Again, what's what that one about? She didn't want a good man. She says I was too good. What you want me to say? All I can say that kind of situation is, huh? And everybody can see Miss Davis's comment, right? Now, if I'm understanding you correctly about the one, she didn't want a good man. She didn't want a good man. Okay. She says I was too good. You sure? She said I was too good? Or did he say? Or did he say of her she was too good? Because that's usually kind of how that goes, right? At least in my experience, my conversations is the woman says, well, he said he didn't want me because I was too good. Basically, translation, he got some moral failings. He got some moral failings. And when he started realizing you might be on the up and up, then he started saying things like, you know, you too good. That's just his way of saying, yeah, I might bring you down a couple of notches. But he can't say that because his pride won't let him say that point blank, right? So he just say things like, no, you too good. But on the flip side, I hate to do this, fellas, but I got to. On the flip side, that's also some very, very sad game. That's a very sad game to try to get her to say, no, I got some stuff too. Oh, you do? It's called bait and switch. So he goes, no, you know, you too good, you too good. You know, you too good for me, babe. You too good, you know, you look good and smart and all that, you know, and yeah, you too good, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna get myself together. And it's really supposed to have you try to, because you think he's, you know, you interested. So you're supposed to go, well, no, I mean, you know, nobody's perfect. And, you know, I got some stuff too. That's called bait and switch. That's the idea. And again, that speaks to who he is on the inside. That he doesn't care that you might, though you're not perfect, you're striving to some level. He doesn't care. All he's trying to do is see if all his particular games, which one of his games will work. And again, I'm not going to call any names, but I do know a gentleman fairly well who I watched do this. And I'm going to leave it just like that, because if I go into any detail, that person is on my Facebook page and it could go sour, right? So I'm going to leave it right there. But I literally watched a guy do this. I watched him bait and switch. Boom, boom. So I'm sorry, ladies, but, you know, and some of you kind of, oh, she said of him? Oh, wow, that's deep. Woo, she said she was too good for him? Wow, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Is that, have I ever heard that before? I might not have heard that one before. I gotta go back in my memory. Then again, yeah, I have heard that before. And look, I let me say this completely off topic for a second. I do believe in levels. I really do. I'm raising my son to be to become a young man who has integrity, who carries himself with some moral disposition, not perfection, but some kind of morality, to have a mentality of peace and respect, and to treasure other people's lives, and to honor them as according to Scripture, which is to prefer people above himself. Now, I know that's not what we teach in humanity, but that's what the Bible teaches. That's what the Bible says. I know we teach different. In the world, we teach prefer yourself above others, but in the Bible, we're supposed to prefer others above ourselves. That's in the Bible. Moving on, the reality of it is, that's and that's levels. So he may prove to be in some sense, I'm very careful here, more morally sound, have a better mentality than others, right? I'm trying to figure out how to say that and not come off offensive. I don't have a problem with that. And I've told ladies, you maintain your standard. But if you're saying she's saying I'm too good for him in terms of her inner person, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. If she carries herself with a sense, not just of pride, but she carries herself with a sense of responsibility, respectability. She's not putting on a show. I'm not talking about a facade for her work buddies or some social political situation she's trying to. No, she genuinely carries herself as someone who is worthy of respect in how she carries herself. I have no problem with her saying, probably to somebody, I prefer she say it to somebody she's close to, I'm too good for him. Now, if she says she's too good for all men, she just should stay single because apparently she's Jesus' big sister. You know, she just should be single. Cool. You know, she's Jesus in a dress. I mean, you know, be single. He was single. So that I don't buy. But if she's saying in isolated situations, she's better than, I don't technically have a problem with that. But I'm qualifying that by recognizing he's morally reprehensible. Look, ladies, if you want to carry yourself, I know this is a bit off topic, but if you carry yourself with some morality, some morals, again, I know I'm not saying perfect, but you carry yourself with some morals, I don't like to use this word, but I'm going to have to, you deserve to deal with somebody who can respect that. Now, you know me and the word deserve, we don't get along, but you deserve somebody who can respect that, right? I mean, or did I miss something? I could be wrong. Now, this is just Gabe's opinion. But I say that about men too. Let me not be all women. Fellas, if you carry yourself with some sense of morality, some sense of a mentality where you respect women, where you hold them in high regard, you ain't got to be, she's a queen. Now, you ain't got to go that deep. He's a king. You ain't got to go that deep. No, you respect that they are created in the likeness and the image of God. You respect that that's a whole person with feelings and you have compassion for them, but they don't show any in return. I'm not shy about this. I think you're better than them. Now you can get mad at me and delete me and stop following me or whatever you do. That's your business. We all grown people. I'm 47. I'm not 20. I'm not 10. I'm not 3. I'm grown. So if you don't like that sentiment, that's fine. But the reality of it is, I think it's hard to argue, and I would be really curious to hear what your disagreement is. My parents raised me to be sound, solid, respectful, have some integrity, and haven't always operated that way, but to have some maturity and integrity. Socially, let me qualify it even more. Socially speaking, I am not dealing with people who are playing silly games, morally speaking, or even in mentality-wise. On one hand, you saying things that sound really, really, really close to racism, but then turn around looking at me talking about gay, but I'm not a racist. That's a game, a dangerous game. And I'm not dealing with you, and anybody who is a racist is beneath me. I said it, and I ain't bashful about it. If you think I'm less than you because of my skin tone, you're not worth my time, period. Get off my page. And if I find you out, I'll delete you. That's where I come from. Now, I'm not saying anybody's got to be like that, but that's where I come from. And I feel the same way about a bigot. I feel the same way about somebody who's prejudiced. Now, in terms of ministry, which is what I do for a living, hey, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to always do my job, and I'm going to do it with compassion. But if you say, Gabe, would you hang out with somebody who I find out? And what if this was somebody you was friends with, and you come to find out that he's got a low view of women, and that he don't think they're worth the paper their name is printed on, the birth certificate their name is printed on, and on and on and on? Oh, we ain't friends. And I'm going to let him know before I go. Now, I took that comment a little bit further than you intended, but let me bring it back and close this out, because to me, this speaks to the content of character. And I want to be able to look some of you extraordinarily beautiful, smart, intelligent, wonderful women in the face and be able to tell you, when you question me about my stance in terms of how I see women, I should be able to say, I had a gentleman in my life, and I literally did, but I'm not calling no names, and I saw him mistreat a woman, point blank, period, and I have pretty much not talked to him since, and have no intentions of talking to him. None. I have no reason to. And if he watches this and figures out I'm talking about him, I don't lose any sleep. I don't lose any sleep. He's more than welcome to delete me. Now, am I perfect? Is my history perfect? No. Have I learned my lesson? Absolutely. That's a conversation for another time. So that's content of character. I'm not talking about you do everything uprightly all the time. That's between you and whoever you believe in, your God. I'm talking about in this community of people, how we interact with each other. Doesn't matter who you are on the inside. And stop telling me about how smart you are. No, because what about your children who don't know half of what you know? Don't you still think that they are valuable even though they're not as smart? So when you say smart, what do you mean? Degrees? What do you mean? So ladies, let me say this respectfully, and I got to finish. You kind of bother me because you talk about your intelligence as this thing that's rated by your college degrees, or by how many years you've been in a particular job, or how many interesting facts you know. Listen to me carefully. Most men really don't care. I got 3 college degrees, Gabe. I got 2 PhDs, 5 master's degrees. I got whatever. Most men ain't going, oh, wow, you're a great catch. Because you have quantified intelligence. What is your intelligence quotient? Oh, I have 110 IQ. Who cares? Who cares? And I don't get the sneaky suspicion, fellas, that women necessarily care. Necessarily. Can you be personable? Can I sit across from you as a man or a woman and have a conversation with you and feel like you give a rip about who I am and what I'm talking about? I like to think that I'm a smart person. Yes, I have a college degree. Yeah, my GPA wasn't too bad. But in the final analysis, what is that I got to do with me sitting here talking to you? I do bring some of my education to the table from time to time, but I don't do it all the time. Half the time I'm sitting here talking crazy. What I got to do with having a bachelor's degree in psychology? I probably need to go lay on somebody's couch and get my head worked on. Anyway, that's it. No, honestly, I'm about laughter and joy for the most part, keeping it light, keeping it moving, but I'm about truth too. So I will keep it light and moving, but don't lie to me. You see what I'm saying? So the reality of it is, when it comes down to the content of who we are, the content of our character, I don't know exactly what Martin Luther King meant. I gave you the quote, you figure it out. But I wanted to present this tonight because I want us to think about, as we start opening back up and we get back out here into the world, some of us never stop being out there, but as we get back out there, I want us to think about listening to people beyond their exterior. And women are obviously better at that than men. That's just the truth. But so men, we got to get better at this and listen to people and find out who they are on the inside. Now, look, I'm a man. I'm visual. I have a very high, my arm ain't long enough. I got a very high appreciation for attractiveness. Blame God. Don't blame me. I do. I'm not shy about that. I'm not going to hide that. I have a very high degree of respect and admiration for attractiveness. But obviously, I have a equally high respect and admiration for people who have something on the inside. The word we use is not character. Where I come from, we call it substance. I have no desire to be around a pretty face, a nice frame, and no substance. Zero. I have no desire. At my age, there's a ton of individuals who are ridiculously attractive. God knew exactly what he was doing, right? But I just don't have the desire to go sit in front of pretty frames and nice frames and pretty faces and no substance. I just don't. I just don't. Now that's Gabe. That's Gabe. I am very interested in the content of your character. And if you've had a chance to talk to me in some form, one of these forms, you pretty much know that's where I'm coming from. You trust me, it ain't hard to figure out that Gabe appreciates substance. That's not hard to figure out. But I'll leave that for you to decide. All right. Till next week, this has been Let's Chat. I am Gabe, your host, and we'll catch up with you soon.